Luxury doesn't to make you powerful. It trains you to chase symbols while someone else quietly controls the system. And the moment you realize this, you can never unsee it. Part 1. The illusion of luxury. Luxury is not what you think it is, and that misunderstanding is exactly where the trap begins. Because from the moment you wake up and scroll your phone, your mind is quietly programmed to associate success with symbols instead of systems, with objects instead of ownership, with appearance instead of control. And the world makes sure you never question this illusion by flooding your vision with polished images of watches that cost more than houses, cars that glow under studio lights, penthouses that look like heaven, and people smiling as if they've already won life. But what you're really watching is not success, it's a carefully engineered signal. Because luxury has never been about comfort, performance, or quality. Luxury exists to communicate hierarchy without words, to silently announce who belongs at the top and who is still trying to climb. And the moment you desire luxury, the game has already begun, because a watch does not tell time better. A supercar does not make traffic disappear. Designer clothes do not make life easier. Yet they all trigger something far more powerful inside the human brain: status recognition. The fear of being invisible and the hunger to be seen as important. And this is where most people lose without realizing it, because they mistake luxury as the destination, while the elite understand luxury is only a tool, a distraction. A mirror designed to reflect insecurity back at you until you feel incomplete without it, and that feeling pushes you to work harder, not for freedom, but for validation, not for control, but for approval, not for wealth, but for the illusion of it. And slowly your life turns into a performance, where every purchase is justified by how it looks to others rather than how it improves your position. And the most dangerous part is that this system rewards obedience, not intelligence, because the more you consume, the more you feel like you're progressing. While in reality, you're simply financing someone else's power, someone else's system, someone else's empire. And luxury brands understand this psychology perfectly, which is why they don't sell products, they sell identity, they sell belonging. They sell the feeling that you are finally above average, while ensuring you never actually escape the average cycle. Because the moment you buy one symbol, a higher symbol appears. The moment you reach one level, the ladder extends upward, and you stay trapped in a race where the finish line is always moving, while those who designed the race already crossed it long ago. And this is why the elite rarely chase visible luxury early, because they know showing power is weaker than owning power. They know silence is stronger than flexing, they know anonymity is safer than attention. And while the masses fight to look rich, the elite quietly build leverage, because leverage doesn't shine, it doesn't photograph well. It doesn't impress strangers, but it controls outcomes. And that is real wealth, yet this truth is uncomfortable, because it forces you to confront the idea that much of what you want was never chosen freely. It was suggested, reinforced, normalized, and praised until you accepted it as your own desire. And once that happens, you stop asking the most important question of all: who benefits from this chase? Because every luxury ad, every influencer flex, every viral image is designed to keep you focused on consumption instead of creation, on spending instead of ownership, on image instead of position, and as long as your attention stays there, you remain predictable, controllable, and replaceable. And this is why luxury feels so addictive, because it promises transformation without requiring discipline. It promises respect without requiring mastery. It promises success without requiring sacrifice. Because once your self-worth becomes tied to external symbols, you are no longer free. You are managed, guided, and steered by trends you didn't create, by standards you didn't set, and by people you'll never meet. And this is the illusion that defines modern success. A golden cage so attractive that people compete to enter it, defend it, and promote it, without realizing the door only locks from the inside. And the first step to escaping this cage is not rejecting luxury, but understanding it, seeing it for what it truly is. Not a reward, not a goal, not a measure of value, but a psychological weapon that separates those who chase appearances from those who control reality. And once you see that clearly, the illusion begins to crack, because luxury can no longer fool you. And when luxury stops fooling you, the real game finally begins. Part 2: Elite Mind Games. Once the illusion of luxury cracks, you begin to notice something unsettling. The people who truly control outcomes are rarely the ones showing off, because elite power does not scream, it whispers. And while the masses are trained to believe that visibility equals importance, The elite understand that attention is a liability, not an asset. Which is why real influence moves quietly through rooms you never see, contracts you never read, and decisions you never hear about until their consequences shape your life. And this is where the real mind games begin, because luxury was only the bait, but control is the prize. And the elite achieve it by mastering perception rather than possessions. Starting with silence, because silence creates mystery. And mystery creates authority. When someone says less, people listen harder. When someone explains nothing, others assume there is depth. And the psychological imbalance immediately places the silent one above the loud one. Yet social media teaches you the opposite. It trains you to speak constantly, to explain yourself, to justify your lifestyle, to broadcast every move, because the more you expose, the easier you are to read, predict, and influence, and predictability is weakness in any power structure, which is why elite environments reward restraint, not expression. Next comes scarcity, one of the oldest psychological levers in human history. Because the human brain values what feels limited, rare, and difficult to access, and the elite use this instinct flawlessly by creating closed circles, private access, invite-only spaces, and restricted opportunities that make people feel special just for being allowed near them, even if the actual value inside is average, because the real value lies in the feeling of being chosen. And once someone feels chosen, they stop thinking clearly, they stop negotiating, they stop questioning terms, they accept conditions they would otherwise reject. All because their ego is being fed, and this is how control deepens without force. Without pressure, without conflict, then comes comparison. The most destructive and effective tool of all, because instead of competing with yourself, you are encouraged to compare your unfinished journey to someone else's polished result. And this keeps you permanently dissatisfied, because no matter how far you go, someone is always presented as further ahead, richer, happier, more admired, and this comparison is never accidental. It is carefully curated, algorithmically amplified, and socially rewarded. So you internalize the belief that you are behind, that you are late, that you must catch up. And when a person believes they are behind, they accept urgency, and urgency destroys strategy, because rushed minds make emotional decisions. Emotional decisions benefit sellers, not buyers, systems, not individuals. And while you rush, the elite slow down, because speed is for workers, patience is for owners, and ownership is the real divider between classes. Yet this truth is hidden behind constant stimulation, notifications, launches, trends, updates, and noise designed to keep you reactive instead of deliberate, because a reactive person cannot build leverage. They can only respond to pressures set by others, and this is why elite power structures are boring from the outside. Meetings, spreadsheets, negotiations, long-term planning, risk management, none of it looks impressive online, none of it goes viral, but all of it compounds quietly. While visible luxury depreciates the moment it's purchased, and the final mind game is validation. Because humans crave approval more than freedom, and once approval becomes the reward, control becomes effortless. You work harder, spend more, and compromise deeper. Not because you're forced, but because you want to be seen as successful, intelligent, worthy, and respectable. And the elite never openly demand loyalty. They simply design environments where loyalty feels like a privilege, and betrayal feels like exclusion. And exclusion triggers fear, and fear keeps people obedient. Yet the cruel irony is that the more someone tries to prove their worth publicly, the less power they usually hold privately, because true power does not need witnesses. It only needs results. And this is the moment where the uncomfortable realization sets in. The elite do not control you through luxury itself. They control you through your insecurity about not having it, your fear of being ordinary, your hunger to matter. And once those emotions are understood, the game loses its grip. Because you can't manipulate someone who is comfortable being underestimated. You can't rush someone who measures time differently. You can't distract someone who knows exactly what they're building, and this awareness marks the turning point. Because now you see the strings, the incentives, the traps, and the patterns. But seeing the game is not enough, because awareness without action is just another form of entertainment. And the final step is not avoiding the system, but reversing it. Using the same psychological laws that once controlled you to build independence, leverage, and authority instead. And that reversal is where the real escape begins, because the moment you stop trying to look powerful and start positioning yourself to be powerful, the entire dynamic shifts, and for the first time, the game starts reacting to you. Part 3. Escape the game. Think like elite. The moment you truly escape the luxury illusion, Something inside you shifts because you stop asking how to look successful and start asking how power actually works. And this is where most people hesitate because escaping the game means letting go of applause, attention, and external validation, and that is uncomfortable in a world addicted being seen. Yet, the elite accept this discomfort early because they understand a simple truth. Real luxury is not what you buy. It is what you no longer need, and that realization rewires every decision you make. Because when you no longer need to impress, you stop leaking energy into performances that bring no long-term return. And instead, you redirect that energy toward building position, control, and leverage. Starting with time, because time is the first and most important form of wealth. And anyone who does not control their time will never control outcomes, no matter how expensive their lifestyle appears. Which is why elite schedules look boring, repetitive, and disciplined from the outside. While chaos only creates the illusion of excitement, and once time is under control, focus follows because focus is the rarest currency in the modern world, and those who protect it gain an unfair advantage. Since focus allows deep work, long-term thinking, and strategic patience, qualities that cannot survive in environments driven by constant stimulation and comparison. And this is why elite thinking prioritizes systems over goals. Because goals are temporary, but systems compound, a goal can be achieved and lost. But a system, once built, continues producing results quietly and consistently. And this is where the power gap widens. Because while others celebrate short-term wins, the elite are positioning themselves where future value will flow automatically. Without constant effort, without constant presence, without constant explanation. And ownership becomes the defining factor. Not ownership of things, but ownership of processes, platforms, audiences, data, and decisions. Because the moment you own a system, you no longer need permission. And permission is the invisible chain that keeps most people dependent, waiting, and limited. Yet ownership requires delayed gratification. Because systems take time to mature, and during that time, there is little visible reward, little recognition, and little praise, which is exactly why most people quit early and return to chasing symbols. But the elite endure that phase quietly, knowing that once leverage is established, effort and reward disconnect and life becomes asymmetrical. Where small decisions create massive outcomes, and at this stage, luxury returns. But in a completely different form, not as motivation, not as proof, but as a consequence, a side effect of control. Because when your income is detached from your time, when your reputation is detached from your presence, and when your influence is detached from your identity, you become untouchable. And this is the highest form of freedom because you are no longer required to be loud, visible, or constantly productive to maintain your position. And the final transformation happens when you stop reacting to the world and start designing your environment. Choosing what enters your mind, what deserves your attention, and what aligns with your long-term direction. Because environment shapes behavior more than motivation ever will. And the elite are obsessive about environment, from the people they allow access to the information they consume, to the standards they enforce on themselves, not because they are superior, but because they are intentional, and intention compounds faster than talent, luck, or intelligence. And this is the truth that ends the game. The elite are not special. They are structured, they are not lucky, they are positioned, and once you understand that power is built, not displayed, you stop chasing the spotlight and start controlling the stage. And luxury, once your master, becomes your servant, no longer defining you, but serving you, no longer controlling you, but rewarding you. And at that moment, you realize the ultimate irony. The people who never needed to look rich are the ones who quietly became impossible to ignore. And this is where the journey ends, not with a purchase, not with applause, but with autonomy, leverage, and the calm confidence of someone who finally owns the game instead of playing it.